The story so far on the mysterious twins. Sasa said it's time to put all things right, and the only way that could be done was to do DNA tests to prove if she actually belonged to the family. The Mysterious Twins Part 8. Within the twinkle of an eye, the information that JJ is alive spread like wildfire. Newspapers, television, radio, and social media were abuzz with the news. People, old and young, celebrated with joy, and congratulatory messages flooded Jack and Sass's space. The hospital management was engulfed with mixed feelings as newscasters swarmed the premises, eager to uncover how they had saved a boy who had been declared dead by stabbing. The management was as surprised as the public, and the only person who could provide answers was Dr. Sasa, according to Dr. Glory, the medical director. The management immediately requested to see Dr. Sasa to question her and prepare a statement for the media. However, upon reaching her office, they found Dr. Sasa slumped over her desk, lifeless. She was immediately rushed to the intensive care unit for urgent medical attention. International Hospital was thrown into a state of panic, unable to understand what had happened to Dr. Sasa, and still clueless about JJ's mysterious case. The hospital's reaction was one of shock and confusion. They immediately convened an emergency meeting to address the situation. The public relations team was tasked with crafting a statement to manage the public outcry and media frenzy. The statement needed to express relief at JJ's safety, explain the hospital's role in the incident, and promise a thorough internal investigation. Dr. Glory, the medical director, addressed the media with a carefully prepared statement. "We are overjoyed to confirm that JJ is alive and well. This miraculous turn of events is as surprising to us as it is to the public. We assure you that an internal investigation is underway to understand the circumstances that surround the situation. We are fully cooperating with authorities and will provide updates as soon as possible." The hospital promised transparency and accountability, assuring the public that we would leave no stone unturned in uncovering the truth. We also expressed deep concern for Dr. Sass's sudden condition and assured that she was receiving the best possible care. Meanwhile, the public remained on edge, demanding answers and justice. Speculations ran wild, and conspiracy theories surfaced, questioning how such a significant error could have occurred. The revelation that only JJ's mother knew he was alive added another layer of complexity to the unfolding drama. Breaking news. Initially, JJ had been declared dead due to a stabbing incident in the hospital, sparking a public uproar and a relentless investigation to find the perpetrator. After months of intensive investigation, it was shockingly discovered that JJ is alive. Only his mother, Dr. Sasa, a doctor in the same hospital, knew the truth. International Hospital, now at the center of a media storm, faced immense pressure to restore public trust and ensure such an incident would never happen again.
At Sasa's house,
Patricia, Jack, and Zara were eating at the dining table when the breaking news flashed across the television screen. JJ is alive. Each of them was lost in their own thoughts. Patricia was stunned and frozen, recalling the conversation she had overheard from Zara. Jack laughed bitterly, saying, "That must be the joke of the year. How and where has he been for all these months? Why would anyone keep my child's whereabouts a secret from me?" Zara sensed trouble, knowing that JJ's safety threatened her own, and her life was on the line. Patricia broke the silence, her voice trembling with a mix of relief and disbelief. "This is good news. My grandson JJ is alive. Oh, thank you, Lord." Jack's face hardened as he replied, "Sasa owes me an explanation for this. Why would she be the only one to know about his safety? Was she aware of the trauma I have been through?" He stood up abruptly, reaching for his phone and dialing Sass's number. Patricia also tried calling her, but there was no answer. The phone rang endlessly without anyone picking up. Frustrated, Jack muttered, "If she's avoiding my calls, then she should be ready to see me in person." He stormed off to his room to change, determined to confront Sassa at the hospital. Meanwhile, Patricia watched Zara closely, scrutinizing her expression and reaction to the news. The conversation she had overheard haunted her, and Zara's silence was troubling. As Jack returned, ready to leave, Patricia insisted, "Wait for me, Jack. I need to come with you to find out about JJ and bring him home." Jack nodded, still seething with anger and confusion. "It's good news that he's alive, but I must know why I was kept out of the picture." Zara, feeling the weight of the situation, suddenly stood up, her eyes filled with fear and determination. "I won't be able to go with you," she said, her voice shaky. "I've been feeling feverish for some time now, but I'll manage to put JJ's room in order." Patricia stared at her in disbelief, knowing fully well that she was up to something. "Are you sure you're all right, Zara? This is a big moment for our family." Zara nodded, avoiding Patricia's gaze. "Yes, I'm sure. Just go and bring JJ home safely." As Jack and Patricia prepared to leave, a sense of unease lingered in the air. Just as they were about to step out, the doorbell rang. They exchanged puzzled glances before Jack opened the door to reveal Detective Michael Scott, who came to update Jack on JJ's case. Michael Scott is a friend to Jack and the detective who Jack secretly engaged on JJ's case. "Jack, madam," Michael Scott said, nodding in greeting. "I came as soon as I heard the news. There's something you need to know also about JJ." Jack frowned. "What is it, detective?" Michael Scott stepped inside, his expression grave. "JJ is alive, but he's been kidnapped just a few minutes ago." Patricia's eyes widened as she exclaimed, "What's all this? Who's after my daughter and my grandson?" Jack asked, "Where has he been? Where was he before he was kidnapped? Why was I kept in the dark?" Scott replied, "Those are part of the things I'm still working on. JJ's kidnapped might be linked to something more sinister. We believe someone within the hospital was involved in a cover-up." Patricia gasped, "A cover-up? Who would do such a thing?" Before Scott could respond, Zara's phone buzzed loudly on the table, drawing everyone's attention. She hurriedly grabbed it, but not before Jack noticed the name flashing on the screen. Unknown caller. Jack noticed the name flashing on the screen. Unknown caller. "Who's that?" Jack demanded. Zara stammered, "Just a spam call, nothing important." Suspicion grew in Patricia's eyes as she watched Zara. "Detective Scott, is it possible someone in the hospital had ulterior motives?" Scott nodded slowly. "It's a possibility we're considering. We need to proceed with caution." Jack clenched his fists. "Then let's go. I need answers." Scott entered his own car and zoomed off. As they headed out, Zara's nervous glance followed them. Once the door closed, she made a quick, secretive phone call. "They're on their way to the hospital. We need to move fast." In the car, Jack and Patricia exchanged worried looks. "We need not lose hope. JJ will come back to us alive," Patricia said, trying to reassure herself as much as Jack. Patricia's mind was filled with different thoughts. What if Zara knows more than she's letting on? Patricia whispered to herself silently. Arriving at the hospital, the scene was chaotic. Reporters swarmed the entrance, and security struggled to maintain order. Inside, the tension was palpable. Dr. Glory met them, her face lined with stress. "Dr. Sassa is in critical condition," she informed them. but we found something that might help. Please come with me." They followed her to Sass's office, where she handed them a letter that was found on Sass's desk. "We discovered this on her desk when she was taken to the intensive care unit. It's addressed to Sassa, but we think it may be of help." With trembling hands, Jack unfolded the letter and began to read. His eyes widened with each word, and he passed the letter to Patricia, who gasped. The letter revealed that Sassa had been threatened to keep JJ's kidnapped news away from the public, as they had already filled the air with the news of his safety in order to distract the public's attention from them. The letter warned that failure to comply would lead to her death and ended with the chilling words, "Say goodbye to JJ." Dr. Glory said, "We are yet to ascertain why she became unconscious, but it may be due to the trauma sustained when she got this information. How this letter got to her is unknown to us yet, and we have informed the authority about it. Meanwhile, our best hands are on deck to make sure that she's out of the coma as soon as possible." Tears welled in Patricia's eyes. "My daughter Sassa must be fine, and we need to find JJ and bring him home." Jack nodded, his resolve hardening, "And we need to find out who did this and make them pay." As they prepared to leave the office, a nurse hurried over, breathless. "Dr. Sassa is awake. She's asking for you." Rushing to Sass's side, they found her weak but conscious. She whispered, "JJ is not safe. Taken away from me. Let her on the." Het mother patted her. "Who did this to us, Sassa?" She struggled to speak, her voice barely audible. "Trust no one, especially." But before she could finish, her eyes fluttered shut. The monitor beeped urgently and medical staff rushed in. At Bobby's house. Bobby saw the news and had been trying to reach Patricia, but she wasn't picking up, which worried him. He was thrilled that JJ was confirmed alive and amazed at how he survived the stabbing. "This international hospital is something else. They really put in their best to save lives," he murmured. Rushing to Kamsi's room, he broke the news. "JJ is alive. I'm so happy. At last, Sassa will be at peace." Kamsi gave him a long stare and hissed. "Aren't you happy for me?" Bobby asked, confused. Kamsi replied, "You don't understand the depth of my stress." Bobby said, "I noticed you don't go out anymore and keep to yourself a lot. I wish you would share your problems with me so I can help you." As they were discussing, Patricia returned Bobby's call. Bobby picked up and said, "Congratulations to us. JJ made it at last. The good news is everywhere." Patricia burst into tears. "JJ has been kidnapped, and Sassa is critically ill. It seems my world is crashing." Bobby asked, "Where are you now?" "In the hospital," Patricia responded. "I will be with you shortly," Bobby said. As soon as Bobby left the house, Kamsi quickly packed her luggage. "I must run now that no one is threatening me," she muttered. At the gate, waiting for a cab, a taxi pulled up and the driver asked where she was going. "Just take me out of this vicinity. Open the door," she snapped. Once inside, she realized the driver was the very person she was running away from. The man said, "We've been waiting for you. We knew you would try to run." Kamsi's heart sank. "What do you want from me?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The driver smirked. "You know too much, Kamsi. You're coming with us." Kamsi tried to remain calm. "Where are you taking me?" "You'll find out soon enough," the driver replied, his tone menacing. As they drove away, Kamsi felt a mixture of fear and regret. She looked around the car, noticing there were no other passengers. Her heart pounded in her chest as she thought of ways to escape. "Why are you doing this?" "I haven't done anything wrong," she pleaded. The job I engaged you in wasn't done properly. You didn't deliver as agreed. JJ is alive, and the news of his safety is everywhere. The driver laughed coldly. You think you can just walk away from everything? We did our work, and the picture of him being stabbed was on air. We don't know about the news circulating now. You refused to pay us as agreed, and we have taken the law into our own hands. Watch out for what we will do with you. Kamsi's mind raced. She had to find a way out. She glanced at her phone, reduced the volume and scrolled to Bobby's name on the contact. Please, let me explain. I didn't intend to owe you. But if I'm allowed, I can be of help to you. She tried again, hoping to buy some time. The driver looked at her through the rearview mirror, his eyes narrowing. Help us, and how do you plan to do that? Before she could answer, the car took a sharp turn, heading towards an abandoned warehouse. The driver stopped the car and gestured for her to get out. This is where it ends for you, Kamsi. Get out, he ordered. Kamsi stepped out, her legs shaking. She saw two men waiting outside the warehouse. As they approached, she knew she had to act fast. Suddenly, she dialed Bobby's number frantically, praying he would answer. Bobby, help me. They're taking me to the old warehouse near the docks. She screamed into the phone before she was tackled to the ground. The men grabbed the phone and smashed it. You really thought you could get away, one of them sneered. As they dragged her back towards the warehouse, Kamsi's hope dwindled. But she knew Bobby would come. She had to hold on just a little longer. Inside the warehouse, they tied her to a chair. The leader of the group stepped forward, his face hidden in the shadows. Kamsi, you've caused us a lot of trouble. Now, it's time to pay. Kamsi's mind was a whirlwind of fear and desperation. She needed to stay strong. What do you want from me? She demanded, her voice shaking. The man stepped into the light, revealing a familiar face. Kamsi, you're going to help us finish what we started. Kamsi's heart raced. Finish what? Why are you doing this? She cried.
Bobby's turning point.
Bobby was racing towards the hospital when he received Kamsi's distressed call. Her voice was cut off abruptly, and when he tried calling back, the number was no longer reachable. Panic surged through him. He quickly decided to divert his route and headed to Daniel's office, the private investigator he had recently hired. As soon as Bobby arrived, Daniel greeted him with urgency. We've been on it already, Bobby. We saw everything unfold and have been tracking her since we were engaged to investigate her criminal activities. My men are already en route to the warehouse. We will try to bring her back safely. Bobby's relief was palpable, but he was still on edge. Please, do your best. I need to know who she was working with and why she's involved. While they were still discussing the situation, one of Daniel's operatives burst into the room. Sir, we've brought in Kamsi and one of the guys from the warehouse. The others managed to escape. Bobby, though worried, knew he had to get to the hospital. I must be at the hospital. Daniel, please, do your best. I'm counting on you. Daniel turned his attention to Kamsi, who was now seated in an interrogation room, looking visibly shaken. He entered the room with a stern expression, ready to uncover the truth. Kamsi, it's time for you to start talking. Tell me everything about Sasa and JJ. Your game is up. Kamsi glared at him, trying to regain her composure. I thought you came to rescue me from the kidnappers. Why are you asking me such questions? Daniel let out a scornful laugh. A leopard never changes its spots. I'm Daniel Kenneth, the one from college. You're not just going to tell me about Sasa and JJ. You're also going to tell me how you killed Rosaline, your roommate, the love of my life, and my unborn child. I've waited for this all my life. It's because of you I decided to get trained as a detective by the CIA and FBI in the United States of America. I decided to establish a private investigation firm, all because of you. I'll make sure you stay behind bars for good and forever. Tamsy's face paled as she recognized him. She realized she was in deeper trouble than she had anticipated.
Joy's case.
Back at Tony's hideout, Joy's desperation was growing. She couldn't rely on Jack, and Tony's threats loomed large over her. She needed another plan, and fast. She dialed another number on her phone, this time calling an old friend, a notorious criminal who had been begging her to work with him. She knew she was signing up for trouble, but she preferred that to facing the law. Marco, it's Joy. I need a favor. Joy, long time no hear. What's the problem? Marco's voice was gruff and suspicious. I need $350 million within 48 hours. Can you help? Marco laughed, a harsh sound that made Joy's skin crawl. That's a tall order, Joy. What's in it for me? Just help me out this one time, and I'll owe you big. Marco was silent for a moment. All right. I will help on the condition that you work for me from henceforth. Yes, I will. I owe you my life. Okay, Joy. I'll send someone to meet you. Joy hung up, her hands shaking. She had just dug herself deeper into a dangerous world, but she had no other choice. Joy was escorted by two of Tony's boys, met Marco's contacts at a secluded location. The man was tall, with a scar running down his face. You're Joy? He asked, his voice cold. The man handed her a briefcase, $350 million. Don't cross Marco, or you'll regret it. Joy nodded, taking the briefcase with trembling hands. She was one step closer to solving her immediate problem, but the future was still uncertain. Back at Tony's place, Joy handed over the money. Tony and his guys counted it, then looked at her with a mixture of disdain and curiosity. You've bought yourself some time, but don't think this is over. I'll be watching you. As Joy left, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being followed. The danger was far from over, and the stakes were higher than ever. Joy kept glancing over her shoulder as she walked through the dimly lit streets. She had gotten the money, but now she was indebted to Marco, a man whose reputation for ruthlessness was well known. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, jolting her from her thoughts. It was a text from Marco. Remember our deal? You work for me now. A shiver ran down her spine. Joy knew there was no turning back. She quickly deleted the message, not wanting to leave any evidence of their connection. She needed to think of her next move carefully. Being tied to Marco meant she had to be smart and cautious. Joy arrived at her apartment, double-checking her locks and peeking through the curtains to ensure she wasn't followed. She collapsed onto her couch, feeling the weight of her choices bearing down on her. She needed to stay a step ahead of everyone, Tony, Marco, and even Jack. Her phone rang again, this time displaying an unknown number. She hesitated, but answered, "Hello." "Joy, it's Marco. I have your first job." Joy's heart pounded. "What do you need me to do?" "There's a shipment coming in tomorrow night. I need you to ensure it goes smoothly. You'll get the details later." Joy hung up, feeling trapped. She was now Marco's pawn, and her life was more complicated than ever. Meanwhile, Tony was not done with Joy. He had his own plans, and wasn't about to let her off the hook so easily. He made a call to his right-hand man. "Keep an eye on Joy. I want to know her every move." Tony leaned back in his chair, a sinister smile spreading across his face. He had a feeling that Joy's troubles were just beginning, and he was going to enjoy every moment of it. As Joy tried to sleep, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She glanced at the clock. It was well past midnight. Her mind wandered to the job Marco had for her. She knew it wouldn't be simple, and the stakes were too high to make any mistakes. Suddenly, she heard a noise outside her window. Her heart raced as she grabbed a small knife from her kitchen drawer, her only means of defense. She tiptoed to the window and peeked outside, but saw nothing. The phone buzzed again. It was Marco. Details sent. Don't mess this up. Joy opened the message, scanning the details of her assignment. She realized how dangerous it was, and that one wrong move could cost her everything. At Sass's house. Zara had occupied with the thought of the way forward in order to avoid mistake on her next move. She has been making series of calls to put things in order. She was worn out and collapsed on the couch, her mind racing with thoughts of her twin sister Sass's cunning and audacious actions. How had Sassa managed to rescue JJ from being stabbed and keep the information hidden from everyone, including our mother, her backbone? It was a feat that baffled and embittered her. I knew she was smart, but not to this level, Zara muttered, her bitterness growing. This new development could drag me into the mud if care is not taken. Determined to stay ahead, she quickly made another call. They are already on their way to the hospital, and there is another new development, she said urgently. Jack is working with a friend who is a detective. His name is Michael Scott. She barely had time to think before another call came in. A male voice on the other end spoke, sounding both stern and strategic. I have engaged the services of more people to push the news of JJ's safety across all available media platforms. The purpose is to distract and confuse the general public, the hospital, and the kidnappers. This will give us the opportunity to launch our next attack with less effort and retrieve JJ for our new plan. Noted, sir. We need to be smarter than before, since it's now obvious we are not the only one after JJ. The call ended. Zara felt a surge of determination. She decided to visit the hospital to check on Sassa and to gauge the extent of the hospital's involvement for further planning. Zara walked through the hospital doors, her heart pounding. She navigated through the sea of reporters and made her way to the intensive care unit where Sassa was being treated. She needed to know how Sassa is doing and how much she had revealed and to whom. She spotted Dr. Glory, the medical director, overseeing the situation with a worried expression, and she rushed to catch up with her. Zara approached her, her demeanor composed, but her mind whirling with questions. Dr. Glory, how is my sister? Zara asked, masking her anxiety. Zara, we're doing everything we can. Sassa is stable, but still unconscious. The situation is very delicate, Dr. Glory replied, a voice heavy with concern. Zara nodded, her mind already plotting her next move. She needed to ensure that Sassa stayed out of the public eye, and that the hospital did not divulge any more information than necessary. As she left the ICU, she noticed a familiar face in the corridor. Michael Scott, the detective, was there, speaking with hospital security. Her heart skipped a beat. She needed to find out what he knew and how much of a threat he posed to her plans. Zara stepped outside to make another call. She dialed quickly, her fingers trembling slightly. We need to expedite our plans. Michael Scott, the detective, is already involved and could jeopardize everything, she said into the phone. The male voice on the other end responded, understood. We will proceed with the next phase tonight. Ensure that everything is in place. Zara ended the call and took a deep breath. The stakes were higher than ever. She had to ensure that their plan to retrieve JJ went off without a hitch, and she had to keep Sasa and Michael Scott from uncovering the truth. As Zara re-entered the hospital, she saw Michael Scott approaching her. He had a determined look in his eyes, and she knew she had to act fast. "Zara, I need to ask you some questions about your sister and JJ," Scott said, his tone firm. "Of course, Detective Scott, but I need to check on my sister first." "Can we talk later?" Zara replied, trying to buy some time. Michael nodded reluctantly. "All right, but don't go too far. I'll be waiting." Zara walked away, her mind racing. She had to stay one step ahead. The game was far from over, and she was determined to come out on top, no matter what it took.
At the prison.
Inspector Pella sat in the dimly lit conference room, facing the top officials of the prison. The room was heavy with tension, and the officials' faces were a mix of curiosity and disbelief. Inspector Pella cleared his throat, ready to present the shocking information he had gathered. "Gentlemen," he began, his voice steady but serious, "I've called this meeting to discuss a critical issue. We've uncovered some alarming information about one of your inmates, Dr. Annas. According to reliable sources and recent interrogations, Dr. Annas has been orchestrating criminal activities from within these walls." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the room. The officials exchanged worried glances, clearly taken aback by the revelation. "Dr. Annas," Warden Johnson asked, his brow furrowed. "But she's a respected doctor. How could she be involved in such activities?" Inspector Pella responded, "Don't forget that she was convicted of the criminal act that brought her here. No matter the angelic nature she displayed here, we should not look away from that fact." Yeah, you are right, sir," Johnson nodded. Inspector Pella nodded, understanding their shock. "I understand your surprise. Dr. Annas has maintained a facade of respectability, but our investigations indicate otherwise. She has been using her position and connections to carry out illegal operations, even from inside the prison." The room fell silent as the weight of Inspector Pella's words sank in. The officials were grappling with the idea that a trusted inmate could be so deeply entrenched in criminal behavior. "We believe," Inspector Pella continued, "that the only way to uncover the full extent of Dr. Anna's operations is to place one of our own inside, undercover. We need a female officer to pose as an inmate and gather evidence from within. This will allow us to monitor her activities closely and catch her red-handed." The officials nodded slowly, their expressions shifting from disbelief to determination. They understood the gravity of the situation and the necessity of such an operation. Warden Johnson spoke up, his voice resolute. "Inspector Pella, you have our full support. We cannot allow such activities to continue under our watch. We'll do whatever it takes to assist in this investigation." Inspector Pella felt a surge of relief. The cooperation of the prison officials was crucial to the success of the operation. "Thank you." In a secure briefing room, Inspector Pella stood with Officer Lisa, a seasoned undercover operative. She was chosen for her expertise and ability to blend in seamlessly. Dressed in plain prison attire, she looked every bit the part of an inmate. "Lisa, this is a dangerous mission," Inspector Pella said, looking her in the eyes. "Dr. Annas is smart and resourceful. You'll need to be on your guard at all times. Your primary objective is to gain her trust and uncover her criminal network. Gather as much evidence as you can without raising suspicion." Lisa nodded, her expression determined. "I understand, sir. I'll do whatever it takes to bring her down." Inspector Pella handed her a small recording device disguised as a necklace. This will be your lifeline. Record everything. And remember, your safety is our top priority. If things get too risky, signal us immediately. Lisa took the necklace and put it on, steeling herself for the task ahead. She knew the risks, but was committed to seeing justice served. Lisa was processed as a new inmate and led to her cell. She quickly adjusted to the prison environment, making an effort to blend in and observe her surroundings. It wasn't long before she encountered Dr. Annas, new here. Dr. Annas asked, her eyes sharp and inquisitive. Yeah, Lisa replied, trying to sound nonchalant. Just got in, name's Sarah. Dr. Annas nodded, seemingly uninterested, but Lisa could sense the doctor's calculating nature. She knew she had to play her cards right to gain Hannah's trust.
At Sass's house.
Jack raced back home from the hospital to freshen up and pick something for Patricia. Unlocking the door, he headed straight to his room. As he sat down, to his astonishment, Zara emerged from his bathroom. You must be very tired and drained emotionally, Zara said with a sly smile. I understand your situation and want you to be fully refreshed before you go back to your sick wife at the hospital. Jack was stunned. How did you get in here? My room door was locked. How did you even know I was coming home? Zara laughed. My ears are everywhere, Jack. I was alerted the moment you told my mom you were heading home. Jack's patience was wearing thin. What do you want from me, Zara? And why are you doing this to your sister? I've told you before, Zara said, her voice turning serious. You belong to me. Just impregnate me, and I'll leave you alone. Impregnate you? Are you out of your mind? Your sister is critically ill in the hospital, and you're here talking about this. Jack's voice rose, with a mix of anger and disbelief. Zara's demeanor changed in an instant. You're not going anywhere until you do, as I say, she hissed. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Jack quickly devised a plan. Zara, I'm thirsty and very weak, he said, feigning exhaustion. Let's go to the kitchen for a chilled drink to cool off before we start anything. Zara's eyes lit up with relief, and she loosened her grip. All right, Jack, let me serve you a drink myself, she said, holding his hand as they walked to the kitchen. In the kitchen, Zara began to prepare a drink. Jack watched her carefully, waiting for the right moment. As soon as she turned her back, he seized his chance. Rushing out, he slammed the kitchen door shut and locked it from the outside. Open this door, Jack, Zara screamed, pounding on the door. Open it now, or else you are ready to face my wrath. Jack's heart raced, but he stayed resolute. I love your sister, and I'm going back to her in the hospital, he shouted through the door. Ignoring her threats, Jack quickly showered and grabbed what he needed. As he headed back to the hospital, he called Zara, his voice calm but firm. The spare keys are in the kitchen. Use them to get out. With that, he hung up and raced back to the hospital, his mind solely focused on Sasa and her recovery.
At the police station.
Inspector Pella sat in his office, deep in thought. The case surrounding Sasa, her son JJ, and the intricate web of deceit was becoming more convoluted by the minute. Everyone seemed to be fighting tooth and nail against Sasa, and the inspector knew there were still many pieces to the puzzle that needed to be put together. The phone rang, breaking his train of thought. It was Dr. Glory, the medical director of International Hospital. Inspector Pella, did you receive the letter we found on Sasa's desk when she was taken to the ICU? Dr. Glory inquired. Yes, we have started working on it. I believe we will unravel everyone involved in this case, Inspector Pella responded confidently before ending the call. Moments later, another call came in. this time from an unknown number. The voice on the other end provided an address and urged Pella to investigate immediately. Sensing the urgency and potential breakthrough, Inspector Pella mobilized his team and headed to the given location. Upon arrival, they were taken aback by the identity of the house's occupant, but they maintained their professionalism and conducted a thorough search. During the search, they discovered a black hoodie and a dagger that matched the one seen in the CCTV footage from the night JJ was attacked. The team swiftly arrested the suspect despite his relationship with Dr. Sasa. Returning to the police station, Inspector Pella knew they had made a significant breakthrough. Dr. Sasa must see this in person, he instructed his team. Keep the suspect in custody until she comes out of the coma. As he watched the suspect being led away, Inspector Pella shook his head in disbelief as he murmured a Yoruba proverb to himself in his mind: the enemy is often within one's own household. The atmosphere in the police station was charged with anticipation. The discovery of the black hoodie and dagger, combined with the letter from Sasa's desk, pointed towards a deeper conspiracy. Inspector Pella instructed his team that the identity of the suspect remained a closely guarded secret until Sasa comes around.
At the hospital.
As Jack and Patricia were sitting at the reception waiting for Sasa to come out of her coma, Detective Scott pulled Jack aside. "There's more. We've intercepted a message suggesting JJ was taken to a remote location outside the city." Patricia, overhearing the conversation, said, her voice shaking with anger and tears in her eyes, "We must act now. JJ's life is at stake. Please, do all you can to save him." Scott replied, "My team is already on it. We've traced the signal to an abandoned building on the outskirts of the city." As Scott raced towards the location, the weight of the situation bore down on Patricia. Her mind was filled with a whirlwind of thoughts and fears. She whispered to herself, "What if Zara is involved in this?" Jack glanced at her, understanding her silent turmoil. "We'll get through this, Mama. We'll find JJ and make sure he's safe. Sasa will be fine too." As Detective Scott neared the warehouse, the tension in the air was palpable. He parked a safe distance away and approached cautiously, signaling his team to spread out and secure the perimeter. Inside the abandoned building, they heard faint noises. Moving stealthily, they found a locked room. Scott motioned for silence as he picked the lock. The door creaked open, revealing JJ, who was sitting all alone. Scott rushed forward. "JJ, I'm here to take you home." JJ, weak but conscious, looked up at him. "Please don't touch me. Leave me alone. I want my dad and Mom." "You're safe now, JJ," Scott reassured him. "Your dad sent me here to bring you home." JJ, with an indifferent look, asked, "Can you take me to my dad and Mom, please, Uncle?" Scott moved closer to him, grabbed his hand gently. JJ hugged him tightly and said, "I want to see my parents." Just as they were about to leave, footsteps echoed through the building. Scott signaled his team, and they quickly surrounded the area. A shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, revealing Zara, a look of desperation on her face. "Auntie Zara, I'm here," JJ shouted. Detective Scott asked, "Why are you here alone, Zara? What are you doing here?" Zara hesitated, her eyes darting around the room. "I came to help JJ. I was trying to save him." Scott's eyes narrowed. "Why should I believe you? How can you be here all alone to rescue your nephew from a team of kidnappers? How did you get to know about this place? What's really going on here?"